Hi Wayfinders, it's Michelle. I am here today in early November with Louisa Mariki, the new provost and vice president of development at Wayfinding Academy. Okay, and I know this was a conversation that you and I had when we were talking about you taking the role, but there are a lot of people in the Wayfinding community who, when we say that you're the new provost at Wayfinding, they're like, what the heck's a provost? So, I know you and I also talked this through.
Yes.
Now that you've been in the role for a little while, how would you describe the role of the provost of a college? Or maybe at least how Wayfinding approaches it?
Yeah. I would say within my role, as short as it's been, and trying to understand it and having these conversations with you prior to co-creating this just description, I would say it's largely supporting the creation and implementation of Wayfinding's academic priorities. Let's go with academic priorities. But I think the difference here is that because we focus so much on our community and our students, it's also finding that balance of how to create that community while still doing all the sort of administrative aspects of the job, which include everything from maintaining data to compliance with HEC and now NWCCU. But it's finding that balance between the community creation and a focus on academia.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I think people who are familiar with higher education and how it works when they think of provosts, that role is almost entirely behind the scenes.
Yes.
Which it is here. You also do a lot of the behind the scenes work, mm-hmm. but because of the way Wayfinding works and our values, you're also like in front of the students a lot and mm-hmm. with the students a lot and mm-hmm. doing that kind of stuff. So I think the typical provost at typical colleges miss out on that opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least that's been my experience. I couldn't even point out the provost at the previous institutions I went to,
exactly.
which might be like intentionally designed that way, but I think the balance we strike here is amazing because I think the interaction I get to have with the students really helps me understand the role I am meant to be doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. So far in the several months that you've been in the role, what have you done? Like, what are some concrete examples of like the behind the scenes stuff you have done? Because our students probably don't even know that you're doing this.
What have I done? Let's see. I have done transcript audits.
Yes.
I've done that to create transcripts for students from our previous cohorts. I have worked on data entry for our new term. I have been in contact with our guides and some of our instructors to let them know about where within the process they are in our academic calendar. I have worked on analyzing and compiling data for our longitudinal studies that we do. I have worked on reading really and just learning and about our institution and our organization and how we want to craft it and better push it forward, and as well as working on things that are fascinating and getting to learn about the people and the students here, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing.
You also successfully negotiated us an articulation agreement with Goddard College so that graduates from Wayfinding can transfer to Goddard and enter there as juniors and have 2 years left to a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So you've also done that in this very short time. Right.
Yeah, I've done that and did that with you and sort of like try to figure out what we would like the agreement to represent when it comes to how they would take in our students should they want to transfer over there, and what would be fair to them, because sometimes things might not transfer or it might not be relevant within the context of another institution's academic journey. So I think being able to have that conversation and go back and forth with them to work on that has been great.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to one of the things you just mentioned that you did, which was the data entry and analysis of all of our longitudinal data. Mm-hmm. So we recently released a newsletter on this topic, so some of the Wayfinding community might have gotten to read that, but will you recap for us what is the longitudinal study that Wayfinding does? Like what are we talking about there? And maybe we've graduated now 3 cohorts of students, so we have data from 3 full cohorts all the way through from before they started till graduation. What did we know based on that?
So our longitudinal study is a compilation of various psychological studies that try to measure various aspects of our students' journeys while they're here. We look at 13 measures collectively that make up 6 program outcomes that we've derived from our student promise. So what we tell students when they come here, that what we're going to do, what we promise to help them do while they're here for the 2 years. And from that, we found these 13 measures that help us capture all the information that we think and deem relevant when it comes to our students' success. And with that, we've learned a lot. We've captured a lot and we've learned a lot over the 3 cohorts that we've now graduated. What we do is capture this information prior to them starting their journey with us, at midpoint while they're here, and then towards the end of their journey with us, to really try and measure the progression. And what we hope and pray, and now what we know, is measure their success and their growth with us and with this model, and where they hope to go and make differences in the world.
Nice. And so what are a couple of examples of kinds of things that we measure that are exciting to you or interesting to you?
Hold that thought. Props.
Nice.
So some of the things we measure in this lovely graphic are things like satisfaction with life. We look at their optimism. We look at student conscientiousness. We look at their relationships with others, and that includes people in their cohort and the other cohorts that they interact with the crew that's here and the people in the community as well. We look at their grit, which is something I never knew we could actually measure, but we do. And we look at things like their openness to experience and their compassion. And collectively throughout their journey, we've seen that for the 3 cohorts anyway, that we've seen positive changes throughout, from the beginning of their enrollment and journey with us to the end when they graduate. We've seen positive changes when it comes to their personal growth, which I think is fantastic. But more importantly to us, when it comes to their purpose in life, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help these minds really find intentional, purpose-driven options for their lives.
Yeah. So it seems like we have some evidence now that what 5 years ago when we started Wayfinding and we said, this is our creed, this is what we believe in, and from that we say we can promise students these things. Mm-hmm. It seems like we now have some evidence that we are fulfilling that promise for the students who spend the 2 years with us, mm-hmm. And that they have skills they can go out into the world with that help them, like you're talking about, the optimism, the grit, mm-hmm. They have purpose in life. Mm-hmm. Sounds like that stuff matters. That's not what, when I went to college, and my college was a great place, it was fine. Mm-hmm. They certainly did not measure these things. They did not ever ask me about or seem to care about those elements of my college experience. So how would you say, other than like other colleges don't measure this stuff, how is what we do different than other colleges in terms of measuring our, in the nerdy jargon, the program outcomes? This is our program evaluation plan, and this is our program outcomes we've set out. How is it different than other colleges?
I think the difference, as you mentioned, really does come from where we emphasize and decide to put our resources, which is with the students. Everything we do revolves around how we can really help nurture them from the beginning to end, how we can help push them in ways that allow for them to dig deep, so to speak, and determine what they want to do with their lives. So we see that in the measures that we have and the data that we've captured, and the difference is phenomenal. Like as you mentioned, like when I went to college, the emphasis was on your GPA. The emphasis was on employability. the emphasis was on recruitment, which, you know, it might be where education has evolved to be. That's where it is. But I think the importance and emphasis on, you know, a college that says that it cares about its students and not really being able to capture that information, take it in, and implement that makes a huge difference in the student's journey. It makes such a significant difference because it's great if you can measure employability, but what we are trying to do here, I think, is give the students the tools that they need to succeed in whatever they choose to do. You know, not just in maybe the accounting you want to go study, not just in the literature that you want to go study, but it's within whatever decision you make, whatever choice you make, intentional choice you make, that you have the ability to explore those choices in a way that make you feel.
Yeah, you mentioned something briefly about how we have this data and then we can look at it and learn from it and implement things based on it. So maybe as like our final piece, now what? So we have all this data, we have all this information. Now what do we do with it?
Now what we do is submit our applications
North. I think it's the Northwest
Commission on Colleges and Universities. That's what it is.
Okay. So what is happening with this NWCCU accreditation application?
We are officially submitting our NWCCU application this Wednesday.
What?
Because we're that awesome. So
nice.
We are submitting, we're good, and it's been an interesting journey.
Absolutely. But because I think this is a week of celebratory news, I feel like we should do just like a small little celebration.
A little.
Yeah, like a little dance party. Like we did it.
We did it.
Years,
we're awesome. Just like pat in the back.
Oh yeah. Pat the back. Thank you for all your work on that. Like, you've done an amazing job, and it's a huge lift for your first actual, like, hi, welcome to the job, and can you please do this massive thing?
There you go.
Exactly.
It's been fascinating, to say the least.
Well, thank you for doing it.
My pleasure, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I geek out about these things, so I'm like, yeah, I got it.
That's how I knew you'd be perfect for this role, with the geeking about the things. I love it.